Hi, my name is İpek Öğretmen. I choose subject designing underground and extraterrestrial living spaces, and I want to talk about this subject. Firstly, why did I choose this subject? An architect does not have a specific place or specific time frame. It must reach every period and everywhere and advance its solutions and designs in line with these. In addition, one of the issues that architects and architect candidates think about the most is how architecture will be in the future and what the environment and people will expect from us. We can speculate about how this will progress, perhaps by looking at past periods. When we look at the 19th and 20th centuries, we can see how the progress in industry and technology, the wars, and the change in human life had an impact on the progress of architecture. More functional, simple designs that only serve the function of the building and studies on the design of cities for the future. When we look at today's architecture, we see structures that aim to communicate with the environment, except that the purpose of the structures is only functional, serving people. The relationship of the buildings with the environment is beyond their appearance. The buildings show their relationship with the environment by being designed in a sustainable way that supports the environment. The foundations of the architecture of the future were laid even earlier than today. With the advancement of technology and science and the increase in possibilities, it has begun to focus on life outside the world. Today, scientists are sent to the moon and Mars to examine whether it is suitable for human life, and architectural studies are carried out to adapt to these conditions. The fact that architecture designs structures that will create a living space for people in areas where it is impossible or difficult for people to live shows that architecture is an important part of human life. And then in the introduction part, I talk about how to introduce the subject and how to progress and give place to main and subtopics. Firstly, why do we need new living spaces? Why do we work on habitats underwater, underground, and in space? What is the effect of these selected areas on the buildings? Secondly, designing structures to be built underwater, underground, and in space. Thirdly, design examples and examination for life underwater, underground, and in space. These examples, the Geiger skyscraper, underground skyscraper is a self-sufficient desert city, Martia, Mars habitats, and final ice house. The subject matter is grouped under three main headings. First of all, it is explained why the search for a new living space and its studies were started. In this way, we come to the conclusion that what kind of areas we can live in according to the results. In the second main title, it is about how the buildings are designed so that the areas decided in line with the results we have reached can provide human life. Finally, in the third main title, the designs made for this determined living spaces are mentioned. You briefly touch on the reason for the search for living spaces in the development area, and then I come to the main topic of this and started to explain why we need a new living spaces. And why do we need a living space? The idea of searching for new living space is is not just a new idea of today. Since the beginning of humanity, people have been in search of new habitats for different reasons. When we look at the living spaces in the periods, we see that the conditions, technology, resources of the period greatly affected the search in living spaces. The changing conditions from Homo habilis that lived 2.5 million years ago to the present, the differences between their habitats are in sight. We can clearly see in the change in the period of human lifestyle that started in the cave individuals. From the living spaces that started in the cave, it has reached a period that searches for a living in spaces. First, when we look at the caves of Homo habilis who lived 2.5 million years ago. The first picture, the caves of Homo habilis, and another picture, the Terra Amata house of Homo erectus who lived 1.6 million years ago, formed by rotten wood structural elements and the surrounding rocks. And another picture, stone pillars with the 300 burial chambers, Stone Age, and another picture, Çatalhöyük, which is an example of the first urbanization. And another picture is the development of the use of stone in the ancient Greek and Roman periods, the development of architectural forms, and the formation of cities. Another picture is the Iron Bridge in Surrey, England. The industrial revolution of the 18th and 19th centuries, with the industrial revolution of the people from rural areas to cities, migration, the use of steel and iron, and as a result work on the planning of cities in the design of structures. We can clearly see that the change in the period of human lifestyle that started in the cave individuals. From living spaces that started in the cave, it has reached a period that searches for a living spaces in space. With the question here, I touched on why we are seeking habitats underwater, underground, and in space. After researching why we are in search of different living spaces, why we are doing research to create living spaces under the ground and under the water in space, the most important issue was how to construct building in these areas, the effect of the conditions created by the spaces on the living space designs, and how the material selection would be. The environmental conditions and the structure of the place are effective in the design of the buildings, and the designs made for the creation of living spaces outside the world. The effects of radiation and pressure on the structure and human beings are taken into consideration. If these design structures are so be taken to another planet from the world, this will be both very costly and challenging. Therefore, the designs are progressing in line with the idea of building these designs on the planet with 3D machines. Another important issue is the material to be used in the building. This material should be both suitable for the environment and durable enough to enable the structure to fulfill its function. In addition, sending materials from Earth to another planet would be challenging and costly. For this reason, material for the building will be created by producing materials from the raw materials on the plant or by producing materials with the system established on the plant. Afterwards, examples were given as a result of these studies. The first example is an example of underwater settlement. It is the Gary sea scraper. The second example was chosen as an example for underground settlement. It is underground skyscraper is a self-sufficient desert city. And the last two examples were chosen as an example for settlement in space. Martian Mars habitat, and final example, ice house. And then ice SWOT analysis was performed, which included the weak, strong, threats, and opportunities of the study. Strength, the creation of underground, underwater, and extraterrestrial habitats is an important factor in ensuring the continuity of human life in the future. Weakness, material transferred to a place outside the Earth is both very costly and challenging when we look at it from a distance. Opportunities, the search for different living spaces and the related studies add a new dimension to architecture and human life. Threat, no matter how much work is being done on the Moon and Mars, many things are not certain. Will there be a negative result when structures are started to be built on the planet? Will the structures actually protect people from radiation as designed? Or will people be able to adapt to these places? And a SWOT analysis was performed, which included the weak, strong threat, and finally a metrics table with visual ones. First, the case of Homo habilis, the Terra Amata house, Stone Age, Çatalhöyük, the ancient Greek, the Iron Age, the Crystal Palace, the Gaia Sea Scraper, Self-Sufficient Desert City, Marsha, Ice House. Thank you for listening.